Welcome to this Acumatica tutorial. My name is Zach Mayer with the Mayer Group, and today we're going to be taking a look at the inventory planning module. If you are familiar with the MRP or the material requirements planning module, the screens will look very similar process as well. It is a renamed workspace. Before we take a look at the actual inventory planning forecast, we're going to start by looking at the stock item settings. So in our inventory workspace, we have our stock item and our non-stock item master screens. If I go into any one of my stock item records, I'm going to be able to see some of the settings that will drive what inventory planning will calculate for us. And that's going to be located on a conveniently named inventory planning tab, where we can see some default settings here. Under our production order defaults, we can see what is the source of this item. Is it a purchased item? Is it manufactured, transfer, dropship, purchase to order, or kit assembly? Based off of our production order default source, we can then override a source warehouse if we're using multiple warehouses, as well as some default order quantities. Here we have our minimum or our maximum order quantities, lot size, and manufacturing lead time. All of this is specific for production rather than the vendor-specific purchasing settings, which we'll see in just a moment. And anything I set here for my production order defaults, whether that's my minimum, maximum, or lot size, I will see those as well in the manufacturing tab. So just another space to see that information here. So if I had set a lot size of 10, for example, I'll see it here on the manufacturing tab as well. And if I'm looking at an item and I expect it to be a manufactured item, it should have a bill of material record. We would see that listed right here under default BOM ID. If you want more information on building a bill of material, make sure to check out our bill of material tutorial. For any of the specific data as far as our minimum, our maximum order quantities, lot sizes, for a vendor, if this is a purchased part, we can see that on the vendors tab. So we do have the ability to track that at a vendor by vendor level, and we can see for this particular item, I have a list here of 5 different vendors I could purchase from. Some have their own vendor inventory IDs, but they have independent data as far as replenishment. So we have different lead times for different vendors, different minimum, maximum order quantities, lot sizes, if we wanted to set those. All of this data, whether it's set at the vendor level or if it's going to be set by your production order defaults, will be taken into consideration for the inventory planning recalculation. When it comes time to generate or regenerate inventory planning, we do that with a screen underneath the processes category of the inventory planning workspace called Regenerate Inventory Planning. This process screen consists of a single button called Process. It's then going to look across the system at all of the latest transactions, all of your latest sales orders, purchase orders, production orders, etc., to pull the latest data into your forecast. One important thing to keep in mind is when you are regenerating your inventory planning, you cannot view the inventory planning display. So while you can put this on a schedule and have it run as frequently as you want, it will lock you out of using that data while it's regenerating. Once it has regenerated the data, all of the latest and greatest information has been taken into consideration, we have 2 different ways that we can view that information. We have an inquiry version and a report version of the inventory planning display. If I want a nice printable PDF version where it's going to give me a list of all of the data that the system has calculated that I can then print off and use however I would wish, the report version will be a perfect solution for that. It gives it in a nice PDF format. I can then download to my computer, email it, print it out, whatever I would like to do. If I want a more functional version of that information, where I can create transactions in the system off of that list, we're going to want to look at the inventory planning display inquiry. It will be the same information that we just saw in the PDF version, but in a inquiry format. So I have hyperlinks where I can open up my inventory records. I can look at my warehouses. I could look at any related documents. And when I have particular items I may want to purchase or manufacture from this list, I can create those related transactions directly from this screen. So the nice thing about the inventory planning display is it's going to give you context into why do we need to replenish it and how much at a bare minimum do we need to replenish. So I can see each of my items that the system has grabbed for me. And for this first item, we can see it needs to be replenished due to a sales order. And that is sales order 6019. We do not have enough to fulfill that order, and we need a base quantity of 4. Now that quantity of 4 could have come directly from this sales order, which we can always open up the order to verify, or there could be a minimum order quantity. So even if the order only called for an additional 2 units, maybe we needed to order no less than 4. In this case, we can see all 4 are from the order. We have 0 on hand. I see that down here in the bottom left corner. So I know I need 4 more to fulfill this order. If I have inventory planning requirements, I can see that this is a PL related document here. That's letting me know that it's going to be used in some other bill of materials, some other item needs this particular purchased component to be fulfilled. And I can see a more detailed look at why this item is in my display using this results by item button up above. When I highlight any of the rows on this screen, I can go ahead and open up this results by item screen here, and it's going to show me some history into this particular item. I can see, again, a snapshot at what that inventory planning setting data looks like from the item master. I can look at it broken down by different warehouses. I can see my base unit, how many I have on hand, and what has happened in this timeline down below. So I can see I have a safety stock and I have an inventory planning requirement. Some other screens that we can utilize in the inventory planning workspace. We can look at inventory planning history. We can look at a audit history as well. So if we want to see what has gone on in this module, if it's been regenerated, who regenerated it, assuming we're not going to use a schedule, as well as here's a look at our inventory planning history. So we can see how many records were calculated by the system every time I recalculated my inventory planning. In the example of purchasing, so we have our buttons up top to create our related documents. If we want to purchase multiple items here, it's going to show the preferred vendor ID directly on our inventory planning display. So if these first 3 items, for example, all had the same vendor as our preferred vendor, we could go ahead and check these 3 off. We could click purchase and it's going to generate a purchase order for me using the default settings for our units of measure, our item description, if there was any minimum order quantities. If not, it's going to pull in our base quantity, and it's going to use that preferred vendor that's located right here. It's going to put that purchase order directly into the purchasing queue for us without the need to manually create that order. Very similar process for production orders, any of our manufactured items. And we can of course see that in our source column here. So I have a manufactured item I need here. I could go ahead and click that manufacture button. It's going to show me at a high level what it's going to use to create that order. It's going to put a date of April 6th. We have a brand new production order that will be assigned by the system with a quantity of 10. I go ahead and I click create. It puts that into my production queue. It's a brand new planned order that we can then begin the production process for. Very useful to have one combined space to see every item that needs to be replenished, whether that's a finished good, a raw component, a sub-assembly, and how do I go about getting more of it. If you have any further questions on how to use inventory planning display or any other module in Acumatica, don't hesitate to reach out to the Mayor Group and we'd be happy to help you further. If you found this tutorial helpful, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to our channel to see future upcoming Acumatica tutorials. Thanks for watching.